Hello, this is probably the biggest city update by quite a way actually. So today we'll be doubling the size of my Minecraft city with a new Miami style city expansion, including lots of new skyscrapers, apartments, streets and shops over on this side of the city. So let's get right into it. So first, let's expand the road layout, using circles to create the central roundabout. And then I've just tidied up this car park section a bit. I'm continuously clearing space so that we can get a better idea of where to build. And next, I'm expanding the side of this balcony building here with an older looking building, for which I've mixed stripped oak log and jungle log. I think it looks pretty cool. Now that's done, I'm going to work on our first skyscraper. You can see I'm just designing the floor plan and I'm going to use sandstone, similar to this building here in the city. This should then give some variety and colour. In order to capture that retro American style, each of these new buildings have similar ribbon windows wrapping around, as well as diagonal sections. You can watch my skyscraper tutorial video for more info and tips. But for now, I'm happy with this build. However, this is where things started to go wrong a bit. So I tried designing an accompanying skyscraper, which was kinda looking cool, but the more I edited it, the more it kept getting worse, to be honest. So then I changed tactic, deciding to instead design lots of skyscrapers and later figure out how to make them fit together. So here's my next diagonal skyscraper, temporarily placed here. Then I thought I'd revisit this slight failure of a design, and I tried to more fully commit to the design, and this is what I came up with. But for a city, it's important not to ignore the base of your skyscrapers. So I did a little bit of experimenting with a shopfront section to connect the base of this sandstone building, adding lots of details such as canopies, window frames, though where it connects to the diagonal building is just temporary. Finally, I thought a more modern looking skyscraper could work well, so I started designing this cool white skyscraper. Again, see my skyscrapers video for more tips on how to build your own. So I started to add a more interesting base using this overhanging design, which is a common modern stereotype that I think always looks quite cool, as you can see in my building over here. So after working on some other videos, I came back to this ready to get my inspiration finally to work. Because, well, cities aren't just about skyscrapers. So for the mid-rise buildings, I wanted to incorporate an Art Deco style, which is common in areas of Miami. So first, let's replace the diagonal skyscraper with a more subtle mid-rise building and just some shopfront signs at the bottom. Then I moved the white skyscraper to the other side of the street to make way for a row of new Art Deco shops. I've actually uploaded a separate video on this if you want to see it. And so I've added them now, along with a slightly taller one with some balconies for some variety. You can watch my full video about it for more detail on the build and design process. Yeah, so this then just added a whole lot of colour, vibrancy and beachside fun. I love the contrast to this like hyper modern building, which I've now extended and completed the base. Continuing over this fun style, let's finish off the first city block I was working on. Oh, I forgot to mention that I removed the black balconies as they didn't make much sense at all. So we've got the start of a few small apartments here, which I'm now finishing off with a roof. I've just tidied up this last side by extending the buildings. It's sort of intentionally plain as you don't want all the sides to be busy with detail. And then we can just add some shopfront signs and things to make the city interesting at street level. Again, a bit of contrast works well, so I decided to design another Miami motel style build in a dark blue colour scheme to contrast with the other buildings in the block. I'm getting ready for our beachfront expansion later in the video by pulling out this bit of terrain, then I can just sequentially move it back block by block to merge it in with the previous terrain. Now I'm going to use circles for our first bend in the road, otherwise doing a big bend like this by eye just looks a bit janky. However, after our first bend I think it's fine to just follow the edge. I don't know if you can quite see what I'm going for, but later in this video this will hopefully become a lovely seaside vista with a nice surfer beach at the bottom. So let's design a little Miami Beach apartment block for our first proof of concept. You can see we've got a white colour scheme and lots of balconies, then round the side some window sections with banners for blinds, then this can neatly follow the road. So I've just placed the balcony building to the side of it. Let's bring these streets to life finally. Starting at this roundabout, I'm adding some greenery as a natural border to the pavement, which is nice, and this means we can then add some palm trees. As you can see, this actually complements some of your simpler sections, giving them a nice silhouette and adding some vibrancy, so I've added them to this boring section here. However, where we've got some more interesting shop fronts, I'm actually going to leave it for now without the palm trees. And as you can see here, I'm adding stairs to the edge of the pavement, and the other side I did something a bit cheaty because I ran out of space, so this section had to become a covered walkway with a glass fence and some palm trees on the side. For more details, I'm going to mix up the textures on the pavement. Adding smooth stone makes it a bit lighter and then gives it that beachfront vibe, as you can see I've done elsewhere in the city. Then on the inside of the path, I'm going to change it to stone bricks. The variety in texture just makes your city look more intentionally built up, as opposed to just being built on naturally found stone. And I've added a new design of street lamp here. Let me know what you think. Now it's time to finish off the Miami street. So here we are. We've got some parasols to protect you from the sun, a sectioned off outdoor dining section using birch leaves, and then some basic concrete benches for people to sit. We've got a lighter style of palm tree. Make sure though that they don't block the line of sight of your buildings, which is why I've stopped here. Here I'm going to add a fun little market. It's just things that might make it more interesting to walk around your city, such as some planted sections and some smaller palm trees to form a small plaza over here. And I've used deep slate for a slightly classier look over here, which then looks pretty cool. I'm going to replace this birch trim with stone brick stairs to separate it from the building behind it. And then let's put this skyscraper to good use that we designed earlier and place it at the crossroads, because I think it matches the other white buildings around it quite well. And now I'm going to quickly do all the roofs in a quick time lapse to finish this area off. Most of these I'm filling with andesite or light grey concrete, ready to add the ventilation shafts and details later. But the occasional one you might want to make, well, not a grey roof, so like here where I'm placing a white box in the centre, which could house a lot of the heating, ventilation and machinery. Similarly here where I've used sandstone instead of andesite. So now get ready for another major expansion to the city, and the most exciting because it's the beachfront. We're going to start by the car park, where last video I temporarily placed this slightly dreary looking building here. But we're meant to be going for a Florida style, so let's replace it with something more fun and colourful, and I can't think of anything more fitting than a beachside motel. These are quite formulaic, so our interior structure is going to just be repeating doors and windows, but then on the balconies we can add some details such as iron trap doors for some, albeit dated, railings, and then some oxidized copper for a nice accent, as we did with the Miami street buildings. Here's our proof of concept, so I'm ready to remove this building. And here's our first motel block, 3 stories high with a pink andesite accent colour. As with earlier, you can use banners for curtains. And for this first floor I've left space between the pillars where you'd actually be able to park your car, if we extend the car park a bit. Let's finish the blue one, which I've done now. And one thing to make sure though is how this will be separated from the city. You can see here I'm not extending the balcony all the way round, otherwise it would just be too accessible to people on the street. So yeah, so now let's continue the beachfront here with another block of apartments. As you can see, this one's very similar to the neighbouring one, because it's good to have a bit of consistency. I've just tried to use some darker accents and some more glassy balconies. So then we can work on tying them together a bit by building a base for this one. So the base is going to fully encompass it, and then the ground floor we can just add some shop fronts and raised windows which are quite stylistic. Then let's extend this backwards so it can become the base of our next building, which is going to be black to contrast with the white. As you can see, I've done the first floor plan first. This one isn't going to have balconies, and I'm ready to paste it up to its full height. So let's make it substantially higher than the two in front, so that you've got a nice sight line from the seafront to all of the buildings. Then similarly to what we've done with these other buildings in front, I'm going to have some subtle step backs towards the top, which give it a bit more shape. Also, I've mixed in some planar andesite sections around here. Now, you might have noticed this little building I've been ignoring around the side. Well, I think it's time to work on it. So it's going to be another cheap set of apartments or motel rooms. First, I'm going to expand this base again, so that it covers the base of this building, which I'll now move back. And moving it back just aids with sight lines, and so that it can reach the other side of the block. So now we've got some space on the roof here for a nice pool. Actually, the first for this Minecraft city. So to do this, some bushes will create a subtle natural barrier along the edge, and then I'm going to use some polished andesite for a nice tiled pattern. That's added some colour, but we can add some more luscious palm trees. So let's place them in here. There we go, and with some nice pavement patterns again. And you'll notice I've done some on the other side. As I was saying earlier, it's important to separate your buildings from the street where necessary, which is why there's this basic, similarly styled wall, which gives these hotel guests some privacy. Turning our attention over here, this road needs some desperate work, so let's start by adding a pavement. And I'll leave some space for street side parking, as I imagine this being a popular beach. To separate the parking visually, let's transition to using cyan terracotta instead of grey concrete powder. Then this area of land looks pretty good for a building to go there, so I'll extend the pavement using circles to sort of follow the contour of the terrain, and then leaving what's just a plaza for now. Let's add in some more details in some steps to the beach, with these stairs sort of transitioning to a more natural cobblestone path, and then we can add a second set of steps here. This is looking quite unfinished, which is why we need to add a wall down to the ground, which will just be stone bricks for now, with polished andesite slabs on top. So now what I think will really bring it together is some new beech trees. So these are quite simple to build, and are really nice and small. What you do is you start off with a basic trunk, but what we want to add are some fences. Yep, just pile these up all over the place to give it that really thick stick-like look on the inside, and then just place the leaves in small clumps around the edges. I usually do like these sets of 3. Of course, I'm using my favourite leaves, mangrove leaves. I'm gonna copy this to make a taller version and then make a few other varieties with the same techniques. For some variety, I'm gonna change some of the trunks to a darker mangrove and oak log, and then we can just add some leaves to the bottom, and I think it's starting to look pretty cool. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. We've got a lot of progress done, and I'm looking forward to working more on extending this beachfront in the future. Just to remind you, this is what we've started with, and this is what we've got now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have got this far, then maybe you could subscribe for more city updates and tutorials. While you're enjoying these cinematic shaded shots, I'll give you the time to do that now. As always, thanks for watching.